morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me here. Cal, I'm going to talk to you about the fractured path to indemnity. My name is Ron Snouffer. I've been a public adjuster now for 10 years. I've been in construction for over 20. Who benefits from this fracture? We talked about that a little bit yesterday. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about, I almost changed up my presentation because we've talked about a lot of this stuff, but you're going to get my perspective on it. So hopefully that helps you out. But who does benefit from this fracture? The carriers, that's right. They want us fighting. They want consumers uneducated. They want them to be confused. Why do we think that is? Come on, we've been here for a day and a half now. All right, so maybe we should do this. Since Tina's group this morning wanted to make sure that everybody was awake, we're going to do some wall squats. How's that sound? All right, maybe we won't do wall squats, but we've had a couple of nightcaps. We've met a few people, but go ahead and stand up. Introduce yourself to somebody that you haven't met yet. I think that's pretty easy. Just stand up, talk to somebody, say hello, introduce yourself.
Met you earlier, but officially Brennan.
Brennan, nice to meet you. Hey, at least I'm not making you do jumpy jacks this morning to wake up. And it's all her fault. Too early?
Now you got everybody cruising the room.
Huh?
Now everybody's cruising the room.
All right, let's go ahead and start heading back to your seats.
That was fantastic.
So as you head back to your seats, the reason why I had you stand up and start talking to other people that you don't know is because we are a team. You heard that yesterday from Chip Merlin. It's important to be a team. What you have to remember is everybody has their role to play in the insurance industry. The insurance company wants us to be fractured. If we're fighting amongst ourselves, we're not helping consumers. Everyone has a role to play. Do you think the carriers have their team? Do you think they practice what they do? The consumer side of the industry needs to think differently. If we learn nothing else from the carriers, we know they're well coached. So, the twins yesterday talked about their why. I think this is a secondary thing that's very important in this industry. We all got into it for various reasons, but you need to know what your why is, why you do this. When Cal originally talked to me about coming and speaking, I was hesitant about coming. You know, I don't often share about the things we do in our business, but I've decided to open up and start sharing some of the things that have made our company successful. What our why is. We need to ask ourselves why we're in the business. Why do we need to bend the fracture? The why is important because when it gets hard, that why will keep you motivated. So like the twins yesterday, I'll talk about my why. I had a customer when I was a contractor. Like I said, I've been in construction for 20 years. I had a customer that got hit by a tornado in Arlington, Texas. Kevin knows where Arlington is. This was in 2011. Allstate came out and told her she had $38,000 worth of damage. Her neighbor's house went through her house. It ripped the back of her house off. She lost the roof to her living room, her dining room, her kitchen, her formal dining room, and her formal living room. And then it came out this side of her garage. And Allstate said she had $38,000 worth of damage. And she told her all of the contractors were ripping her off when she was getting bids for $200,000, $250,000 to rebuild her house. They were ripping her off. She spent 6 months interviewing different contractors that were ripping her off, according to the insurance company, before she found a public adjuster. Think about that. She spent 6 months eating up her ALE, being in distress, not being able to go home. Her house flooded also because it happened to be raining on the same day that the tornado happened. Her life was devastated, and she had no help from the carrier, who put her in good hands. That's my why. That was my last job as a contractor. I became a public adjuster right after that because I'm sure like in Illinois, Texas does not have very many public adjusters. So carriers know their why. We work in an industry that's no longer consumer-driven, but profit-based. There's a reason why some of the wealthiest businesses in the world are insurance companies. Once again, Cal talked about that yesterday. Everybody's stealing my thunder yesterday. The carriers spend millions of dollars to develop that narrative that they're going to take care of them and put them in like a good neighbor, or they're going to treat them, they're in good hands. They've seen that, they've done that, they've paid for that. We've all heard the commercials. If anybody watches football on the weekend, you're indoctrinated with their commercials every weekend. We're going to start with the carrier's why. Does anybody remember this guy? Greed is good. Gordon Gekko, Wall Street. Once again, Cal talked about this yesterday. Insurance carriers are for profit. In 1998, everybody know who Warren Buffett is? A few of you? He's one of the wealthiest men in the world. He's a pretty smart guy. And he loves the float. Talked about it in 1998, and then in 2017, he admitted on live television during their shareholder meetings, we're not going to pay for claims. We make money on the float. The longer we can hold the money, the more money we make. And I'm the best at making money off of money that is sitting in my accounts. Live shareholder meeting. You can still watch the thing on YouTube now. It's crazy. Like Cal talked about yesterday, they have intentionally expanded the deadlines. You know, if you hold $1 billion for an extra month, how much money do you make? Allstate. So I was an Allstate adjuster before I became a public adjuster. And I can tell you from past experience that it's an entertaining side of the business. But with that being said, Allstate, who started this whole process, because Jack talked about it yesterday with the McKinsey files, is in the business to make money. And they make a lot of money. But yet, what is their narrative? What do they tell people? You guys are killing the industry because it costs too much money to do claims, that they're not making any money. Does that look like they're making any money? How many of you would like an extra $6 billion in pure profit? I'm not saying they're not allowed to make profit, because they are. Everybody should be allowed to make profit. But they can't be complaining that we're taking advantage of them when you got $6 billion in profit. Since 1998, Warren Buffett has gone from 1 insurance company to 6. Why did he do that? Because he makes money on that float. He makes more money in his insurance ventures than anything else because he uses that money to make more money. And it doesn't cost him a dime. So because of all the money that the insurance company spends, we're on defense before we ever begin. So how do we combat that? They're spending millions to market, to educate. They're playing chess while we're playing checkers. We're still drawing plays in the dirt. Yeah, they got service providers. How many of you have an extra $1 million to educate consumers? That's your whole job. That's all you do. It's just educate consumers on how the claims process works. Anybody? Just Matthew Mulholland back here in the back. He raised his hand. So, as our side of the business, we need to start educating property owners. We need to take one step ahead of what they're going to do. If you're not creating a narrative before you ever go talk to the property owner, or before the adjuster ever comes out, you're behind. Does this look like a roof that should have been bought? Would it surprise you if the insurance company told him that it was old damage? Would it surprise you if I told you that they'd been with the same carrier for 13 years? Would it surprise you that they had a claim in 2007 and another one in 2020, and the carrier denied it because they should have paid for it, or should have made the claim in 2007? So, what is the narrative? They're going to tell property owners that they don't have damage, whether they have damage or not. We all know, well, we should all know that with hail damage, it's not a matter of if it's going to leak, it's when. Is it going to leak within that 2-year time frame? Consumers trust their consumers trust their insurance companies. Why do they trust their insurance companies? Well, their agent sends them a Christmas card, Christmas cookies, and he donates to their booster club. And he tells them every year that he's going to take care of them. He's going to watch over them. So, what story do we need to be telling? I don't remember who talked about this yesterday, but you need to under-promise and over-deliver. That is a big issue in our industry. I think it was Steve that talked about this. Sean. Zach. All right. You know, everything ran together a little bit. Like I said, I went back to my room last night and I was like, I'm going to gut this whole thing and start all over again. But we do need to under-promise and over-deliver. It's very easy for an insurance company to divide us when you've told them something and you can't deliver upon it. Who's the liar then? Anybody? We are. We can't start off on a bad foot. It's all about the narrative. Are you telling them the importance of what a contractor does, on what a public adjuster does, on what an attorney does, on what an appraiser does? Not when it's time to get to that point. Are you telling them that at the very beginning to set the stage? Because if you don't set the stage in the beginning, it is that much harder to get them to go to a public adjuster, or get them to go to an attorney, or get them to go to appraisal. Why couldn't you have done it? You didn't tell me about this in the beginning. You told me if you were here that you would get the job bought, and I would have no issues whatsoever. And now the adjuster from the insurance company is telling me that you don't know what you're doing and I should hire their preferred service contractor. What sets your company apart? You must sell the story. In the beginning of my sales experience, one of the things that I got told is the story is how you get paid. If you're not telling the right story, you're not getting a paycheck. Because none of us get paid until when? The job is complete or the customer gets paid. So what story are you telling in the beginning to make sure that you can get paid? That's a good one. Treat you like a neighbor. How much time are you spending educating the consumers? I love hearing the stories about when a disaster happens, you'll have all these contractors run into an area and sign up 300 or 400 claims. How can you spend any time with a customer and sign up 300 or 400 claims and tell them what might happen in the claims process? Can you? I mean, I know I'm from Texas and I talk slow, but I don't think I could talk to 300 people and tell them what's going to happen in a claims process in a short amount of time. That would take me a while. So what are you telling the customers when you sit down and tell them about what might happen in the claims process? Because the story the carrier's telling is going to be totally different. I have a preferred service contractor. They can do it all. We work with them all the time. They're not going to take advantage of you. I'm going to give you a little example for all you public adjusters in here on the letter of representation on telling a story and creating a narrative. When you have them sign up your letter of representation, your explanation to them should be, look, you're hiring me to be your advocate for you. If you don't want an advocate for you, do not sign the contract. Because as soon as I email this in, fax it in, mail it in, whatever you do to get it to the carrier's going to do what? They're going to turn around and call that customer and say, yeah, wait, just a second. I think if you get rid of that public adjuster, we'll come back out and do a re-inspection for you. I think that if you get rid of that PA, that we could probably help you out and send one of our preferred service contractors out there to check on anything that we missed. If you don't have that conversation with them in the beginning and say, if you take that phone call and you don't tell them, I have hired a public adjuster, you need to contact them, then they should have never signed up the claim. Yeah. You didn't create the narrative that it takes to get the job done correctly. Let me start by saying this, another simple thing. You cannot, by any means, and we hear this all the time in Texas, you can't tell them, if I'm not here, the insurance company's going to rip you off. You can't. Like I said earlier, the insurance company's spending millions of dollars every single year on telling them they're going to take care of them. Their agent calls them on their birthday. When it's Christmas time, when it's their anniversary, they're hearing from their agent. They think their agent's their friend. And in a lot of cases, they are. But you have to know this. If you go in there from the standpoint that they're going to rip them off in the very beginning, they're not going to believe you. They're going to think you're the liar. You're the liar. My agent would never lie to me. My adjuster would never lie to me. So make it simple. If I'm there, the majority of these things are handled the first time I'm there at the inspection. If they don't, I'll go over your options with you at that point in time. It's that simple. Because now, when they do get turned down, guess what? They're that 1 out of 10 people that didn't get bought. And now they're a little upset. Now it's become emotional for them. If you don't get them emotional, I know Steve didn't talk about this yesterday, but I've heard him talk about it in the past. If you don't get them emotional, they're not going to buy. you're not going to hook them. And you got to hook them from the beginning. Because we know, we're in the industry. We see how people get taken advantage of every single day. We got to stop reacting and be proactive. The claims game, it's a moving target. What works today won't work tomorrow, and what worked yesterday may work again. Everybody agree with that? I mean, it's serious. Things that we did 5 years ago are starting to work again. Things that we did yesterday that worked aren't working. So, there's not going to be a magic pill that works every time. All we can do is work according to the policy like Cal loves to talk about. That policy is our guide. It's our playbook. It says it in the policy. That's the rules. But you can't be upset when some carriers don't play by the rules. Do they like to play by the rules? Not all the time. So I have a couple stories based on this storm. This seems like a pretty simple claim, don't you think? You had 3-inch hail, solid, dense hail in North Texas in 2016. This is one of my best friends. He was a groomsman in my wedding. And Allstate said, yeah, you got damage to your roof, man. It's in bad shape. We're going to go ahead and pay for your roof. We're going to pay for your decking. But let's be honest. You should have got out there and tarped that thing. We don't care that you have water damage inside your house and part of your house flooded. You should have tarped it. We're not paying for any of the water damage. Grapefruit-sized holes in his roof. And do you think that's a 10 by 10 section? That's 2 freaking holes, 2 feet apart. The hail went through his roof, went through his sheetrock, and hit a 60-inch TV on his wall in his game room and shattered the screen. He was in a closet on the first floor with his family just praying that they didn't get killed. And the insurance company said, you should have tarped it. We're not paying for any of the water damage. Very reasonable. That's fair and reasonable, right? That was in 2016. It was actually the March 2017 storm. So we have to treat people, though, how you want to be treated. Somebody else, once again, said this yesterday. I don't remember who it was. But you got to treat them how you want to be treated. The old saying is you're going to get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. If you're not treating people how you want to be treated, they're going to treat you badly. You can't expect that every adjuster that you meet out in the field has had a great day. We get to hear stories all the time about the contractor that threatened to beat him up on the last claim, or the contractor that stole the ladder and walked off and left him on the roof. What if it's not something like that? What if they're going through a divorce? What if a family member is dealing with cancer and they're having a rough day? You don't know what they're going through. I don't know, anybody in here know who Steve Badger is? Okay, a few of you. Our good buddy Steve Badger, he loves to tell everybody to be nice. I like to say be professional. We are a professional industry. You need to be professional. You can agree to disagree. You can be firm without threatening to beat them up. You don't have to yell and scream at them and cuss at them and tell them they're an idiot. But you can be firm. And you can agree to disagree. Relationships matter in this industry. I can tell you this, I've been out on claims where an adjuster that I had met previously had a bad experience, and he was let's just call him a turd. And then I see him again 6 months later, and he says, I was having a bad day. I really appreciate you not yelling and screaming at me that day. And because I knew you were a professional, I'm going to make sure we get this roof bought. It's a whole different experience versus them fighting with you the whole time because they want to win. Because the last contractor threatened to beat them up or is arguing with them over, who knows, I get $2,000 a square for 3 tab. Come on. The carriers have an army of people. I don't know how many of you were IAs in the past, but when one of your teammates does something, they go back to the office and they talk to their friends. They talk to their team. And they let them know, that Cal Spoon, man, he gets so mad. He just doesn't want to negotiate. Insurance companies are gamblers. If you haven't figured that out yet, it's easy to figure out. So in 2020, we had the largest first-party claim verdict in the state of Oklahoma. And last year in Texas, we had the largest first-party jury verdict in the state of Texas. In 10 years, I've only been to trial 4 times. Once with Chip Merlin, and after jury selection, and they saw us in the box waiting to testify, they decided to settle before they started doing our testimony. The second time I was parking outside the court, and they decided to settle before we came in. The 2 times that I have testified were both the largest verdicts for Oklahoma and the state of Texas. So, and I have to say, this was probably one of the dumbest claims that I've ever been involved with. This shows you the extreme that a carrier is willing to go in order to prove their point. I need another glass of water before I finish my statement here. So, remember the storm from March 2017? This was the commercial building. Not the residential building, it was a commercial building. So my client bought the building in November 2016. He bought it pretty cheap, it was a distressed sale, and he planned on remodeling the building and making it into a data center and office space. He had a contract with Amazon to help fulfill their data center. Great contract to have. So the carrier was like, man, you paid this much for it, but you want to insure it for this much. We're going to have to do our due diligence and make sure that this property qualifies to be insured. They sent 3 different underwriting inspectors out to the property, 2 of which said the roof was in excellent condition. The third, the manager, said this is the Cadillac of all roofs. The Cadillac of all roofs in underwriting. So they bought the building, they got their insurance, and in March 2017, 5 months later, they got cannonball size hail, 3-inch hail on the roof. You would think that this would be an easy case. An easy case. Property owners come in the next day, they notice that there's leaking inside their building, there's water on the ground, and you can't have water in a data center. It is a clean room. They vacuum seal this thing and have microparticles and all that stuff. The germ guy, whatever, he could tell you more about it, but it was ridiculous. So they call a roofer. And the roofer comes out and he tells them, man, you have a ton of damage, you need to file a claim. But before you file a claim, I need you to know this. Most likely the insurance company is going to pay the claim, but if they don't, we'll give you your options at that point in time. We may need to hire a public adjuster. And you would think, cannonball size hail, why the hell would he need to tell them that? Why? Set the narrative. because insurance companies are gamblers. So he meets with the adjuster. You know, it's a medium-sized commercial building. It's 70,000 square feet, McKinney, Texas. And the insurance adjuster comes out. We find out later in trial that this was his first commercial inspection. Never been on a commercial roof before in his life. He had been a desk adjuster until that day. But they needed help in the field, so he got to be the help in the field. He wrote an estimate for $16,000 worth of damage to some of the metal flashings and the carports on the property. So the roofer's like, hey, apparently they're in for a fight. You're going to need to hire that public adjuster. So then we got involved. We went out there with our moisture meters and our infrared scans and our drones, and we documented the property over 2 days, took a couple thousand pictures of damage, and submitted all that package and that report to the insurance company, expecting they're going to buy the roof. Nope, we get a call from the manager. We're going to send an adjuster back out. Great. Don't send the guy out that doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Guess who came back out? The same guy. The same guy, I forgot to mention, he spent less than an hour at the property and never looked at one leak inside the building. Not one. So we were there with him, and after about an hour, he wanted to go home. We were like, wait, we haven't even done anything yet. We're just looking at the outside of the building. We haven't looked at any leaks. We haven't even gotten on the roof yet. So we dragged him around the building, showing him all the leaks inside the building. He's taking pictures, documenting everything that we're pointing out to him. We get on the roof, and we're like, why wouldn't you pay for simple stuff? Had 25 10-ton air conditioners on it because that data center has to be kept chilled all the time. It can't get hot. They got to keep it below 60 degrees 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So it had a bunch of big air conditioners on it. All the coils were smashed. He didn't even pay for combing of the fins. That would have been the simplest thing, right? He didn't do that. So after we're there with him for about 4 hours, he says, you know what, this is above my authority. I'm going to need to get an engineer. Awesome. We'll meet with you and your engineer. After a few more weeks, the engineer comes out, and we are showing him the same type of damage that we showed the adjuster. He's taking picture after picture. We're showing him fractures in the membrane. We're showing him leaks in the interior of the building. We think, you know, he's nodding his head. We have his attention. He understands what we're showing him. 4 weeks later, we get a report back that's 16 pages long with not a single picture of damage. And he says it's all old wear and tear. Now remember, at this point in time, they don't know that we know that the underwriter wrote a report saying that the roof was the Cadillac of all roofs, and 2 additional guys said that it was in excellent condition. So we had already told the property owner that if we can't get it bought, we have an option for him. We introduced him to an attorney out of San Antonio, and he took on the case. Now, most of the attorneys in here will tell you that the majority of these claims never make it to trial. The insurance company eventually looks at it, and they weigh their pros on whether or not this thing's going to be a good one or a bad one, because they're gamblers. They're gamblers. The attorneys actually told the insurance company they need to settle. I remember being part of that mediation. They told them they need to settle. We don't need to take this to trial. They took it to trial. So that engineer that was with us for the day, taking pictures and documentation, that did a 16-page report with not one picture of damage, had to turn over his file for trial. He had taken over 1,300 pictures that day. Over 1,000 of them had damage to the property, including 33 fractures that he identified in the roof. How do you think that went with the jury? So because we went to trial, the insurance company also hired a roof consultant to help with a desaturation test of the roof. And the consultant, during his testimony, puts a picture up showing that the roof is completely underwater in February, I think it was 2019. And then he shows 12 samples of no water in the substrate. In his testimony, though, he got to tell the jury that even though he took that picture and did his inspection in February, he came back out and took the core samples in August. Anybody know what happens in Texas in August? We had more than 130 days without rain, over 90 days that year with over 100-degree temperatures. Do you think he would have found water? No. So at the end, the jury got to decide. We got a unanimous verdict. Like I said, 700,000 square foot roof or 70,000 square foot roofs, and we got a verdict for $3.6 million. We got your breach, we got your treble damages, all that fun stuff, attorney's fees, and the customer was very happy. And it's all about the relationships. The relationships that I gained from the roofing contractor, the relationships I gained from the engineer, from the attorney. It was a great experience. It's all about relationships. So we have to work together, and we have to be a team. We got to understand what our why is. And the biggest key to all this is educating the consumers. We have to be educating the consumers. Treat others how you want to be treated, and relationships matter. I'm Ron Snouffer with National Claims, and we tell you not to stress. We will get you the money. Derek has some money if you guys are interested. He's going to throw it out into the audience. Any questions? Forgive Eric, or Derek, he's injured. Do any of you guys have any questions? Thoughts, concerns, conjectures, complaints? Matthew Pearson. So Matthew, I've known since the beginning. And that was actually the first claim that I did with him. Thompson Co. Probably heard of them before. It was entertaining, though, when they told, oh, I forgot to mention, the claim was State Farm. They don't insure many commercial buildings, but they insured this one. We got it by accident. We requested all documents associated with the claim when we got involved, and the guy that had never been an adjuster out in the field sent it to us. So we kept that little tidbit to ourselves. Didn't matter, though. When we did submit our package, they didn't care. It was entertaining to watch the underwriter when they asked him if he insured crappy roofs, because they said that all the damage was old and the roof was in crappy condition. So. Y'all are easy. I know it's 8:30, maybe 9:30. Yeah, 9:30. I guess that's my time this morning.
Ron,
Thank you.
Is this scenario, is it unique?
I want to say that it's unique, but I say this. You never know when an insurance company is just going to gamble. You have no idea. It's ridiculous. The fact that they knew that there was damage, they already knew they were going to eventually pay for it at some point in time. But they were willing to risk the fact that he wouldn't hire the right contractor, and that contractor wouldn't tell them about a public adjuster, and that public adjuster would deal with it for a couple years and not send it to an attorney. They relied on all of that. This was a good case scenario in what you're supposed to do in creating the narrative along the way. Jack?
When did you flip it over with the attorney? How long was you working?
So we were probably involved with it about 6 months, and it's based on the fact that we have timelines that we set. We give them a chance to do what's right.
I think most of us have a tendency to hold on too long.
Yeah, I would agree 100% on that.
Yep.
I mean, I'll get calls from PAs asking for advice, and they've been fighting with the claim for 1.5 years. I'm like, why? What have they done? What have you done? If you have your package, Cal's going to beat this home. If you've put together your documentation and you've proved beyond a reasonable doubt that they owe under that policy for that claim, you give them an opportunity to deny it, but you don't just keep fighting with them for the next 6 months because you're wrong. I love that. Hope is not a business model. Jack said that yesterday. That was awesome. I actually wrote that down on my notes yesterday. But insurance companies are going to gamble, and you have no idea when they're going to gamble. This one didn't make any sense whatsoever on why they would gamble. Cannonball-sized hail does damage to anything. The day we were there doing the inspection with the adjuster for the second time, they were re-roofing the roof next door to us. And it was, yeah, anyway. Been there, done that. What happened to their roof? Why is their roof not wear and tear and old damage? So.
State Farm not appealing? Or what, I mean, I don't see State Farm is paying $3.2.
So we got the verdict. They immediately said they were going to appeal it if we did an NDA for an undisclosed amount. So basically they paid us something not to appeal it. But our client was extremely happy. He actually added another 70,000 square feet to his building after the claim.
Can we change that narrative from flipping it to an attorney to what it should be? Because I think it gives it a very negative connotation.
I understand that.
If you're flipping it, it means that you didn't actually, or it would insinuate that you didn't do your job. So the flipping thing and calling it a game and things like that are things that I've absolutely been trying to get away from. It's not flipping. If you finished your job, what do you do next?
You recommend an attorney.
Not flip it. You don't put the phone. Yeah, our vocabulary is very important, and the words that we say are used against us by folks like Steve Badger.
Oh yeah, I know. I keep using flood. It's not flood. Once again, thank you guys for letting me come out. We got a bunch of more amazing speakers today.